I've been at Petrified Forest National Park for altogether about 9 years, and I absolutely love this landscape, not just because I'm a native Arizonan, but because it offers a window in time. These trees and this landscape represents a picture of a time period that was during the mid to late Triassic. So you're looking at trees that were living anywhere from 208 to 235 million years ago, give or take a day. So to me, that's just so neat that I can actually reach out and touch a piece of history. It took geologic luck for this to happen. Normally trees would rot, but we had the right conditions at the right time that these trees were preserved instead. Believe it or not, when you look at this landscape, at the time when the trees were alive, this was a big floodplain region. So you had a very water-rich environment, and most of these trees aren't upright because they didn't grow here. They actually got washed down rivers and deposited in this area, covered over with water, mud, and silt. That cut them off from oxygen, and if you think about it, almost everything that helps a tree decay needs oxygen. So it didn't stop the process, but it slowed it way down. But you also need a really big source of silica because that's the mineral that did this fossilization. The hills of the Painted Desert were originally tons of volcanic ash from a bunch of volcanoes exploding over a period of time. They weren't anywhere near us, but we were downwind, and that ash got dumped in this area up to several thousand feet deep. Not only did that further cut off oxygen, but it provided the mineral, the element that allowed the fossilization process to occur. And as much as this may look like a tree, there really isn't any organic tree left. It's a beautiful cast or copy of the original tree, and it's all 100% mineral replacement. But as you can see, the detail on some of these is just outstanding. You really can see the grain, the texture. The reason why you see so many trees right in certain regions, particularly here, is that the sandstone is the giveaway. This was an ancient riverbed, and if you think about it, the river itself will always have debris floating down it and getting jammed up and deposited, but the floodplains that only occasionally got inundated with water would only occasionally have things getting deposited there. So this region has a high concentration due to the fact that you and I are standing underwater in an old river. These trees are conifers, pine-like trees. At this point in Earth's history, nothing reproduced with flowers or fruit. There were not deciduous trees at this time. And you and I could go back in time and see these trees and look at them and say, yeah, that's a pine tree, but it doesn't look like one I've ever seen. And that's for two reasons. First of all, these were tropical trees. Now, when you and I think of trees, we're generally thinking about temperate zone, like the junipers and so on. These were tropical, and they're also extinct, so you and I wouldn't have seen anything that looks quite like them. If you look at the remains of these trees, there actually is a lot of information there besides the trees themselves. Many of these trees bear the scars of insects that once chewed on them. So just like trees today, there's actually history there that can still be shared today from looking at the ancient remains. You know, these ancient trees, although they're not living trees anymore, are a good example. We were lucky enough that 100 years ago, people who were profiting off this said, you know, it's really great that we're making money, but this is so special, it ought to be safe for everybody to see and enjoy. And so Petrified Forest National Monument was created in 1906, and then we got our park status in 1962. So there were people who cared enough about this place that said, this is so special, it needs to be preserved. And it's one of those things that you think, well, yeah, but I mean, they'll always be here, there's so much, right? But if that hadn't happened, the trees wouldn't be around for you and me to see today. And it's the same thing with living trees. We tend to take them for granted. But if we don't think about what we're doing, if we don't take steps to conserve some of these special things, they're not going to always be around for other generations to see and enjoy, just like we get to today. I have no idea. I don't know if they've gone over 300 million. I know we have some of the oldest being from the mid-Triassic, but to be honest, I'd have to look in one of the books to tell you which are the oldest trees. You got me on that one. You stumped the ranger. Up until about 10 o'clock, you've actually got pretty darn decent shooting. Rainy, you know, it's funny, if you look at a lot of our pictures, our postcards and books, rainy season is when the vast majority of those intense color shots are taken. It just makes sense.